I was a sophomore in college when this happened. My original roommate moved out mid-semester to go live with his girlfriend, and the school housing office placed someone new with me. 1 week he was gone, the next this other guy just showed up with a suitcase and a printed out room assignment. He was a quiet guy, really quiet. The day I met him, he didn't even make small talk, didn't ask where anything was, just nodded a little when I said hi and then immediately left the room. I figured he was maybe socially awkward, but whatever, I'm not exactly a chatterbox either. But there was definitely something off about him from the beginning. He didn't have a phone or a laptop, no TV, no headphones, nothing. He brought books, like actual hardcover books and notebooks. He had 4 or 5 of them, these thick ones, and he filled pages constantly. He'd sit at the desk at night and just write, or what I assumed was writing. No music, no background noise, just the sound of pen on paper. I had to wear headphones just so I could fall asleep. I didn't think a lot of it at first. Some people are just eccentric or anti-tech or whatever, and even I kind of hate how addicted I am to my phone and screens and all that. But it started to get weird. Like, I'd come back from class and he'd be sitting there facing the desk where a computer or monitor would be, but there was nothing in front of him. Just empty space. Not sleeping, just sitting. Sometimes I'd try to talk to him and say something like, "Hey, everything good?" And he'd just look at me like I'd interrupted something private. He never left the room when I did, and I mean never. I'd go to class, go to the gym, whatever, and whenever I came back, he'd be there. He never had food, I never saw him eat. Once or twice I think he went down to the vending machines, but that was it. He didn't use the communal kitchen, and I never saw him open or go into his suitcase. I honestly started wondering if he was even enrolled there. Then, one night, I got back from studying at the library and saw this collection of drawings on his bed. They were organized into groups on like a grid. I just stood there, looking at them, trying to understand what I was seeing. Then it hit me. They were drawings of the campus. Just random spots. The dining hall, the quad, the bike racks outside, the rec center. Some were from inside the buildings, like the security desks or random hallways or stairwells. And there were hand-drawn maps with like routes and notes on them. The drawings weren't good. It definitely wasn't like they were from an art class or something. These were more instructional, like if you were planning out a route or trying to visually memorize locations or something. It reminded me of someone using flashcards to learn a new language or conceptualize a complicated project. One of the drawings was of our dorm building, with all the doorways, elevators, stairwells, and emergency exits marked like a blueprint. It was so weird I didn't know what to do. I just kind of froze up in the moment, and of course, that's right when he walked in, saw me looking down at them, and calmly started picking them up. I remember he said it was, quote, for a project, but he didn't say anything else. Didn't explain it, didn't address it, nothing. Then he put them under his bed, and I had to just sit there in the room with him like it wasn't incredibly awkward for the rest of the evening. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about those drawings, about how many of them there were, how instructional they were, and about the way he always seemed to be watching something at his desk, even when he wasn't looking at anything, like he was endlessly thinking through something complicated. A couple days later, I pretended to head out for a late class, but doubled back. I just had this gut feeling. I peeked through the crack in the door and saw him standing at my desk, flipping through my planner. It didn't look like he was looking for anything specific, just reading it, slowly. Then he opened the top drawer of my dresser and started going through my clothing, looking at them like he was trying to gauge if they would fit him or not. I stepped in and said something like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" He slammed it shut, looked up, didn't even flinch, and told me that I had left it open and he was closing it for me. I reported it to housing the next day. I didn't go into huge detail, just said that I was uncomfortable and that he'd been touching my stuff. A week went by and nothing happened. He was still there, still scribbling in his notebook, still doing whatever it was he was doing. Then, one night, I woke up and saw him sitting on the edge of his bed, facing my side of the room. Not moving, just sitting in the dark on the edge of his bed. If you've ever slept in a dorm, you know that means this guy was literally sitting awake, like 4 feet away from my head while I had just been laying there. I pretended to still be asleep until eventually, literally like 10 minutes later, I finally heard him lay down and go to sleep. I basically didn't sleep until the weekend and had to go home for a couple nights just to get away. When I came back, he was gone. No warning, no note, just gone. His bed was stripped and his desk was cleared. I asked around and someone on the floor below said they saw campus security escorting him out the night before. Later, I overheard one of the RAs talking about how he wasn't even supposed to be living in our dorm. Apparently, he wasn't officially placed there. No one knows how he got the key or who approved his paperwork. I never got a straight answer from housing, just an email saying the matter had been resolved and that my new roommate would be arriving within the week. I ended up getting a job and moving off campus after that. I don't know what that guy was doing. I don't know what he was planning. But every now and then, I still wonder if any of those drawings were of me. Several years ago, one of my granddaughters asked if her friend could stay with me for a little while. I guess her home life had some sort of issue. I was told something about a fire. I wasn't really clear on the details, but I said yes. I had the space and I figured I could use the company. Her name was Kim. She was polite and soft-spoken. She thanked me over and over for letting her stay and offered to help me with dishes and vacuuming. I told her she didn't have to, but she insisted. I noticed early on that the way she moved around the house was a bit odd, like she preferred not to be seen. For the first week or so, nothing seemed wrong. She mostly stayed in the guest room, slept during the day, and was up most of the night. I didn't think too much about it, honestly. College kids have college kid schedules. But then, my spidey senses started going off. I'd find the bathroom light on in the middle of the night, or my toothbrush moved, or a cabinet left open. At first, I thought maybe I was being forgetful, overthinking it, or was too used to living alone and needed to relax. But one afternoon, I went to take some Tylenol and noticed one of my old pill bottles had been moved around. It was old and not even a prescription I used. It was from when my husband had cancer. I had never thrown it away, just shoved it in the back of the bathroom cabinet and forgotten about it. It was still about half full and my curiosity got the better of me, so I counted the pills. Honestly, I couldn't tell if any of them were even missing because I had never gone through them before, but I just wanted to have a baseline going forward. That night, I ran into Kim in the kitchen. I tried speaking with her, and even though she was a shy person, it was a stranger encounter than usual. The one time she made eye contact with me, I noticed her eyes were dilated, and then I saw her hand shaking when she poured herself a glass of water from the Brita before going back to her room for the night. I thought she might have been stoned or something. I'm not a prude or anything like that. When I was a student, I had my fair share of fun, but this was just an odd vibe. And it continued. Not constantly, but now and then I'd look up and catch her standing down a hallway or in a doorway staring into the room like she was watching to see if I was paying attention or something. Then, one night, around 3 a.m, I woke up to the sound of something clattering in the bathroom. The sound of plastic containers falling on the tile. I got up, quietly opened my door, and saw the light from the bathroom spilling out into the hallway. I quietly walked up to the doorway and saw Kim crouched on the floor, digging through my old toiletry bag. My entire medicine cabinet had been emptied all over the bathroom floor. Bottles and containers were everywhere. She had my husband's pill bottle in her hand and was shaking it like she couldn't believe it was almost empty. Her skin looked all pale and clammy like she was sick. She was whispering to herself in this manic state. I quietly said her name and asked her what she was doing. She looked up and froze. Her eyes were completely unfocused. Then, slowly, she got to her feet, still holding the pill bottle. There was this awkward silence between us. Then all she said was, "You don't even use them. They're just sitting there." I told her to put them back. She didn't move. I couldn't tell if she was high or going through withdrawal or what, but something had changed in her face. It was like you could just feel this rage or desperation coming off of her. I know I'm not doing the greatest job of describing it, but it was like if you've ever had an encounter with someone who you just knew could snap into real violence at any moment, then you know the exact type of tension that I'm talking about. She took a step toward me, and I backed up into the hallway and told her to stop and to leave immediately. I said I was going to call my son, my granddaughter, and the police. She blinked a few times, like she was waking up from a spell. Then she dropped the bottle on the floor, turned around, and walked out the front door, barefoot. I locked the door behind her and sat there trying to figure out what had just happened. My granddaughter came by the next day, crying. Said Kim had a history but swore she was clean. Told my granddaughter she hadn't been using since her last stint in rehab a year ago. I could tell she felt terrible and didn't press for details. But the whole context of the visit had changed, and I wasn't even sure if my granddaughter fully understood whether Kim was even telling the truth about why she needed somewhere to stay in the first place, or if I had been lied to. She took Kim's things with her and somehow managed to return them to her. I threw out every old medication in the house that afternoon. That girl never came back, but I'll tell you what, I still remember that look in her eyes when she realized I was awake, and her wild energy, like she was willing to do whatever it took to get what she needed in that moment. My cousin moved into my basement the year he got divorced. It wasn't a permanent thing, just a few weeks until he figured things out. I was the one who offered, actually. Our family had always been close, and when he lost the house and things got ugly with his ex, it felt like the right thing to do. I live in a 2-story place with a furnished basement. It's not fancy by any stretch, but it's got a private bathroom, a little kitchenette, and a separate entrance. He could basically come and go without bothering anyone, which seemed ideal. My daughter was 15 at the time, and I figured they'd mostly stay out of each other's way. At first, it was fine. He was respectful and kept to himself. He'd always been a little standoffish, but that was just his personality. It never felt like he was trying to be rude. He paid me a little rent too, even though I hadn't asked for it. If anything, I started to feel guilty that I hadn't been more involved when he was going through the worst of it. But then, small things started making me feel off. Like one morning, I came downstairs and noticed the side door was unlocked. I always double check it before I go to bed. Then, my daughter mentioned something in passing, that she thought she saw my cousin sitting in the living room in the dark in the middle of the night when she got up to go to the bathroom. That should have been a bigger red flag than it was, but I didn't want to overreact. I just told her to let me know if she saw anything else weird. A few days later, I noticed a drawer in my bedroom had been left open. Not wide, just like an inch or two. I'm pretty OCD, so something like that definitely stands out to me. I keep a small lockbox in there with some old family photos, stuff from when my husband was still alive. I checked it and everything was still there, but it still didn't sit right with me. Then, there was this one afternoon when I came home early from work and found my cousin in the first floor living room looking through the couch cushions. I could tell by the way he was acting that he didn't expect me to have gotten home when I did, just very awkward and cagey. I asked if everything was okay and he mumbled something about misplacing his keys and then went back down to the basement. It was definitely weird. It's not that he wasn't allowed upstairs, but he didn't have any reason to be up there. Everything he needed was down in the basement. I started locking my bedroom door at night, not because anything specific had happened, but because I felt watched. It was like this slow crawl of discomfort. Not a single big thing, just a bunch of little things piling up. My daughter even started spending more time at friends' houses, said the house felt heavy. The breaking point came one evening when I went down to the basement to ask my cousin if he wanted a plate of dinner. His door was closed, but I knocked and waited. No answer. I figured he was out, but as I turned to leave, I heard a noise, like a quick shuffle, like someone trying to stay quiet. I reflexively opened the door. He was sitting there, on the bed, fully dressed, just staring at me. Not angry, not embarrassed, just calm. Next to him, on the nightstand, was my daughter's hairbrush. Neither of us had even realized it was missing. He saw me looking and followed my gaze directly toward the brush. When he realized what I was looking at, he reached out, picked it up, and held it out to me, saying something like, "Oh, I found this. I think it was lost." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just closed the door and went back upstairs, locked every door that I could. The next day, I had my daughter clean the living room. While she was vacuuming, she found something under the couch. I didn't even know what it was at first. She had to explain to me that it was called an SD card, like the kind you put in a camera. Neither of us recognized it as ours. We plugged it into her laptop and opened it up. There were videos, dozens of them, taken from inside our house. Most were grainy from odd angles, like between furniture pieces or behind objects peeking out into rooms. Some were short, just a minute or two. Others went on and on for like 20 minutes at a time. A few were of me, most were of my daughter. Nothing was explicit, thank God, but it was absolutely inappropriate regardless, and certainly creepy enough to kick him out immediately, though I didn't know how I should approach it. I called my brother that night and told him everything. He and my cousin had been closer growing up, and I figured maybe he'd have more luck handling it. He agreed it was time for him to go and said he would come over while my daughter and I were out and make it happen. We left, and when we got back later that night, my cousin's things were gone and neither of them were there. My brother called to tell me it was taken care of, but told me I should contact the police and give them the SD card anyway. I was initially opposed to this because I didn't want to create an even bigger deal out of it than it already was, but because of the nature of the situation, I felt like the police should at least be aware of the incident in the event that my cousin might do something like this to someone else in the future. I called them. They came over and I answered questions and gave them the SD card. I haven't spoken to my cousin since. Last I heard, he had moved far away. My daughter won't even say his name. Sometimes, even now, I find myself checking behind lamps or couch cushions for hidden cameras before realizing what I'm doing is ridiculous. I also triple check every lock in the house before bed, even the one on my bedroom door.